looking a little bit rough for Omega Zero, but when times get rough, sometimes you just have to praise Yogg and let him do his work. Forbidden Torch not going to change Omega Zero's plan. Yogg is hitting the board right now.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Who's wearing a hat? Ah, I wanted Huffer to wear a hat. So good.
That adds a fireball to his deck, so even more damage inside the deck list of Omega Zero. Oh, that just changes your hero power when it's casting as well. So he is now a druid.
Jaina has become a druid. Release the hounds.
It's 1 damage off lethal.
So fun. The problem here is the Misha being on 1 health means pingable.
And all of this damage can come through. That means 8 damage can come through. If Pavel expends 2 mana to do so.
I think the Huffer has to go to face though.
You may just win out on board control if Pavel doesn't have the Flame Strike, but
what if he does?
If he does, then this Huffer does need to go to face.
No spells for Pavel unless he can play the Azure Drake into something impactful here. It's like the plan. Mana Worm, no spells again. Pavel's deck is a minion-heavy deck overall, and it's not going to be enough. Omega Zero, 3-0 off the back of that. Yogg doing just enough with the Call of the Wild and the Unleash. Here we go, potentially the final game of opening week. Omega Zero on his Druid, and Pavel on his Warrior.
Yeah, and this is the token Druid. It doesn't have the Malagos burst combo in it. There are no Moonfires, and instead there are Power the Wilds. No Malagos, instead he has those Violet Teachers slotted in, so a lot more flexibility to go wide, but a lot less finishing potential, and can oftentimes lead to a tougher matchup against Control Warrior.
Yeah, how do you think this deck overall is better versus Control Warrior than the Malagos focused one, or worse? A lot of players I think it's a lot better because you can apply more pressure overall.
Sure, you can apply more pressure, but it really depends on how you've teched your finishing win condition. And if you have in there Soul of the Forest, for example, which was a popular tech back before people started playing the Malagos Druid, that card can single-handedly allow you to win against Control Warrior because your board no longer gets swept out by a Brawl, or even just Savage Roar for some finishing potential. But the way that this token Druid is kind of built, it's not very greedy. It doesn't have a lot of those finishing cards. There's no Savage Roar. There's no Soul of the Forest. It's just kind of playing things and fighting honestly for the board, which Warrior can take advantage of.
Yeah, and as well, just to remind everyone, this is actually Cthulhu Warrior. As you can see, the cultist there starting to hit the board, Beckoner of Evil on this turn. And we saw from Cydonia earlier today, sometimes Cthulhu Warrior can just beat you up and end the game relatively quickly, surprisingly so for more of the standard Control Warrior variants. And Omega Zero only just drawing into a Wild Growth a little bit too late. Even a turn ago would have been fantastic for him, as he did end up hero powering twice, not getting too much done.
Yeah, a lot of times in this matchup you want to wait on Wild Growth. So at this point, I think Wild Growth is kind of, that ship has sailed, and he wants to try and turn it into the excess mana and then play the excess mana and draw a card with a Violet Teacher on board, creating 2 1/1s, drawing a card and playing 2 spells to help discount your Arcane Giants. But that's a long journey away, but wow, he is actually just going to go for it right now. Play pretty aggressively onto the board instead of taking the passive route. And I think that has a lot to do with, not having those Savage Roars and not having Soul of the Forest in the build. Just wants to play towards, maybe he can get an early game board lead and snowball that into a win, not having to worry about having to deal with the gain 10 armors in the form of the Ancient Shield Bearers from Pavel.
Yeah, I do understand it overall, because if you fall behind on the board versus Cthulhu Warrior, how does this Druid even get back?
You gotta mulch. One mulch for something.
Sorry, I take it all back. You can just mulch the board away. But yeah, you do have the mulch to work with. But even see again, 2 Cthulhu Chosens available, and they are just not easy minions for the Druid to deal with one after the other. Pavel going to go straight for the Justicar this turn, really start tanking up, being able to leverage that even more powerful hero power.
Pay attention,
this might be just the all-in with the Violet Teacher. It's going to be curious to see how much he goes in.
Pretty much needs to be a Wrath. Does he ever naturalize this?
No, no way. You might take naturalize, but
why is Violet Teacher's just going to die?
Yeah,
to the Justicar.
It's the price you got to pay sometimes. You don't want to give your opponent 2 cards this early, but at later stages of the game, naturalizing Cthulhu could be super huge. So taking naturalize for that prospect, I really like, but I can't imagine the tempo naturalize here. Unless you want to tempo naturalize, innervate Power the Wild, and just go all in.
I am ready to learn.
The Power of the Wild. He's just going to go for hero power here. A bit of a halfway house. Yep, he's going to save the naturalize for a much bigger target later on. The Valor Teacher will just be dead to just a car, but Omega Zero relying on these 2/2s to get the job done for now.
Yeah, they'll pose a little bit of chip damage, but honestly, against the tank up, now that one's been removed, they're not actually pushing any damage. They're just maintaining Pavel at 23.
Yeah, and they, you know, if Omega Zero wants to trade into these, he has to use both minions or a hero power, which is just going to be yet more damage to start stacking up onto Omega Zero himself. Second Violet Teacher available for him now. Only naturalized to combo it with, so not going to do too much yet. Pavel has already got an answer to at least one of the Arcane Giants we can see in Omega Zero's hand, or a straight up answer to them both with a potential brawl as well.
Yeah, just throwing it out there into the potential brawl, but feels like he has to be aggressive, continuing to do so. Pavel has a lot of ways to be able to punish this.
Which way do you like the most, Firebat? You can't wait till he does a play and answer.
I'm analyzing.
This is the sound of
The
Firebat.
awkward part of the brawl is if you do lose the brawl, then you're pretty toast. Taking that 8 additional damage is something you really do not want to do. So I like the safer play, which is kind of what Pavel is went with here, which is removing it with the execute. Gets the trade, so he gets the value out of the bubble, and you can wait for a bigger board to brawl when your opponent has to kind of go in for that last-ditch all-in push. That's when you can really capitalize on the brawl.
Is there any thought here behind Sylvanas this turn, or do you think it's just too risky to take the 8 for now? Because
there's the Raven Idol card, which gets really interesting, right? So if you take the 8 for now, you're potentially looking at that Raven Idol card maxing out at 6 additional damage. So it could be 16, 17 damage, and then, you know, a swipe on top of that. You're looking at like 21, so you would be safe. But
well, just the potential of Sylvanas take a rough turn itself for a brawl if he continues to develop onto the board next turn and have that as your blowout turn.
I think it would be a reasonable line of play, yeah.
Well, he did go with the execute instead, playing it safe, and to be honest,
sure, it's
don't blame him at this point.
He's in such a commanding position, he doesn't need to take huge risks, and Sylvanas is really great for this exact situation that we're about to see right here.
Really great anti-Ancient of War. A lot of the time, if the trade happens straight up, you gain a 5/5 taunt.
I have no time for games.
He's to continue tanking up as well, and has the Cthulhu in his hand ready to launch.
Big eye that has many other eyes. That's what it is!
Okay.
Yeah, it's staring at me.
It is staring at Pavel as well. You can't play it next turn, but the turn after will be huge for him. For now, though, Omega Zero probably is to take a gamble here against the Sylvanas, and is also debating whether or not he wants to super overextend, just go all in on the board, because he could do that as well and just say, you know what, Brawl's not a card I beat, let's do it. And
yeah, one of the frustrations as well is for Omega Zero is there's not even been an opportunity for Pavel to really brawl. So it's not as if he can say, well, I had loads of minions and he didn't brawl, so he probably doesn't have it, because there's just never been that spot this game. So he knows that he's probably been holding on to a couple of cards throughout most of this game so far, and one of those could very likely be Brawl. And as you said, he probably just doesn't win versus Brawl at this point.
yeah, I actually think it's fine to all in against Brawl. I think if there is a Brawl, the current stages of the hands, it's very unlikely that you win.
I'm afraid. It's the 2-1. So does dodge the Ancient of War steal there from Omega Zero. Got to be feeling pretty good about that. Not going to go too heavy by the looks of things, though.
Yeah, definitely. Once he's won the 50-50, this looks awesome. The scary part is having to win the 50-50 to get to this position. But now that he's here, he seems like he could potentially be stabilizing as long as there isn't a big minion coming out like Ancient Shield Bearer, Twins, or the Cthulhu. And we can see already with Caster Vision that Pavel's got the Cthulhu loaded up for next turn. And although Omega Zero does have answers for it, it's still going to kind of wreak havoc on his board rather quickly.
Yep, I believe the Cthulhu is a 12-12, so getting plenty of damage done and just being a pest in itself. Was that the mulch used on the Acolyte? Okay.
Yeah, he's realizing one of the ways he wins this game, or probably the only way that he wins this game, since he has no value in his hand, he has to ensure that Pavel also has no value in his hand, so denying the ability for Pavel to get additional options and cards is one of the ways he hopes that Cthulhu Warrior just stalls out with weak Cthulhu minions.
But you know, it isn't a weak Cthulhu minion.
No, this is...
Twin Emperor Veclo is the perfect follow-up to this Naturalize. You say, well, you've used Mulch, you've used Naturalize, thanks for the 2 cards, now I have many options. You know, another Emperor, Emperor Thorison, that gets drawn, so there's multiple options now for Pavel to follow up with an Omega Zero, sitting on the old Innovate Living Roots combo, which is a combo no one likes to say on. Is not looking too great. Pavel going with the Twins over the Thorison this turn, just to put more pressure on the board, really, and not do anything. The difference between 5 and 6 health is pretty huge to remove, actually. You know, any sort of spell power swipe, for example, swinging the board in Omega Zero's favor was potentially possible there.
Yeah, Omega Zero has almost no hope in this game, but the one hope that he does have is there is a Yogg-Saron in his deck list, so just hoping that he can find that off the top and get a huge swing out of it.
Yeah, and Omega Zero did pretty well with Yogg last time he needed it, so he'll be wishing on it a second time. Ragnaros is a decent draw. Nourish, though.
Yeah, now the 2 choices are either draw for the Yogg-Saron or hope your opponent has no answer for Rag. But I'm in the camp here that Rag's not enough. Even if Rag comes down, hits the Emperor Thorison, and doesn't get removed, I don't think you will win the game. I think your opponent can trade both minions into the Rag, redevelop, and be fine.
Yeah, I think with the naturalized 2-card draw, it has put Pavel in a really strong position in terms of hand size. It's just the odds. There's only 1 Shield Slam, 1 Execute being used. The odds on there being an answer to Rag, even without the minions, is pretty high at this point.
And I mean, with the minions, there's a 100% answer to it.
Yeah.
So I think drawing for Yogg is slightly better, but I think both ways you lose about 99% of the time.
More 5-bet stats, I love it. Approximately all of the time.
Well, there's never all of the time in Hearthstone. It's always approximate, right? There's just always some crazy chain of events that you can try and assemble to navigate your way out, and that's what Omega Zero is trying to do.
Yeah, and the problem with this Nourish is even if he gets Yogg, he will not be able to cast it this turn, and he's simply going to be 1 turn too late. Azure Drake into a dream.
Well, he's able to remove the 5/5 here, so he is alive. He's got another chance at the Yogg-Saron dream. And that could be it. In his no, Druid of the Claw.
2 Disciples of Cthulhu. It's a very difficult name to say.
Sure.
Blizzard, can you please make your card names easy for me to pronounce? I'm going to be able to clear up the Azure Drake. If he really wants to. Going to use it for card control.
Looking for the Gore Howl. Does he have a Gore Howl in the build? He does.
Ancient Shield Bearer. Yet another card that is going to push Omega Zero out of this game. Pavel on 27 armor. Quite happily gain another 10 next turn easily, or just kill his opponent one way or the other. Gonna find out. Omega Zero does manage to clear up the board. That one of, another one of. You know, this is a theme of Omega Zero's decks so far in this tournament. A lot of just single cards in the deck, and not many 2-ofs, or at least a large amount of 1-ofs in the deck, Druid of the Claw being one of them. Posing a bit of a frustration now for Pavel, as it's a tournament you can't really deal with very well.
This is going to need to be the craziest Yogg that anyone has ever seen in Hearthstone history for Omega Zero to come back in this game.
And that is a Wrath, not a Yogg.
You think it could turn into a Yogg?
It could. Imagine the Yogg can see the side at this point.
Just digging for that Yogg-Saron. Where is it?
I keep digging for that Yogg.
The saddest part is it's going to be like his last card. He's going to draw all game to find Yogg-Saron. He's going to play it, and Yogg-Saron's just going to immediately sprint and kill him. There he is.
Okay.
His chance to come back in this game.
Yeah, and Pavel does not have a kill yet. He has not set up Leaf at this point. The Power of the Wild actually was really good there for Druid of the Claw being able to trade into the Shield Bearer and still survive. Provide a little bit of a speed bump for Pavel's Cobra, which means it's going to have to trade into the Azure Drake, use the Disciple to clear out the Druid. There is the Doomcaller for Cocoon number 2. Pavel really putting the pressure on Omega Zero, and Omega Zero not messing around, already hovering over Yogg. Let's see what it can do. Is it going to be enough? We're about to find out.
This needs to be a 63 damage Yogg.
Ulch on Yogg. Nope, okay.
That would have been super anticlimactic.
Oh, second 50-50. No, that is going to be it. And also with the extra damage on the Doomcaller, Omega Zero did him a well played before Yogg, and he meant it. One of them was going to win off the back of that Yogg, and it wasn't Omega Zero this time, as Pavel does put a point on the board and maybe starts his fight back against Omega Zero here. Yep, next game coming up is going to be a Druid Mirror, but I think these decks are a little bit different, not completely mirrored, as Pavel is playing the Malygos version with the Dark Arakoas in his list, which is something we saw out of him from last call as well. And Omega Zero, of course, what we've seen previously this series, is on the more token-focused Druid list.
Yeah, and a lot of times the token Druid can get off to a faster start, just having more options in the 4-drop slot. So, you know, both players start with Wild Growth on 2 typically, and then the token Druid's able to immediately initiate pressure with Violet Teacher or Fandral on 4, whereas the Malygos Druid kind of passes on 4 a lot of the time and takes their first action on 5. So that can be a huge factor, but this game, both players kind of missing their Wild Growth. Looks like it's going to be a slow one.
Yeah, both players just rocking the shapeshift. Soul of the Forest as an option for Omega Zero.
And Living Roots.
Yeah, we were talking about Soul of the Forest. You know, we've talked a lot about it this week overall. Could be a great card. If this was versus Warrior, I feel like
huge.
Soul of the Forest would be the snap pick. But Living Roots, overall, more flexible in general, especially versus Druid that kind of struggles to deal with a wide board as it is. Maybe you don't need Soul of the Forest too much in this specific game.
Sure. Pavel off to the ramping. He's got a lot of very large minions in his deck. He may even nourish for crystals just because of the mana cost in his hand, and being able to get Malygos out quickly on 9 is often extremely powerful. There is one mulch in Omega Zero's deck, but it's still a huge threat to get out. And this is a big decision point, committing to either the value game or the tempo game right now.
Yeah, I would love to see the draw for cards here. I always feel like in Druid Mirrors, although they're not an exact mirror, that just having more stuff than your opponent normally works out a lot better as well, because you know the 2 minions he was ramping up to were Malygos and Yogg, both very specific styles where Yogg's a little bit of a loose cannon and Malygos needs those cheap spells to combine with it, and if it eats a mulch then you're definitely in trouble. So both players deciding that more cards equals a better game.
Yeah, both players going kind of value-oriented rather than tempo-oriented with their choose ones there. And oftentimes the value game is a lot stronger in the Druid hand. You kind of need a specific set of cards to go for the more aggressive tempo-oriented play there with the mana crystals. But as it progresses and as it turns more and more value-oriented, you have to kind of give the edge to Pavel, because he just simply has a lot more bigger minions in his deck with those Arakoas and with the Malygos combo being able to remove big threats.
Yeah, I think that's it. As the game continues, as these players draw through the decks, Pavel has the ability of just killing Omega Zero with a Malygos burst, whereas Omega doesn't really have that option, and it's much more obvious, you know, when he's getting ready to make a kill, because he'll make a big board half the time, and that takes a turn. There is no instant kill option for Omega, so Pavel does look like he's doing okay here. He's getting his Power of the Wild as well, so now he's saying, you know what, I can also be a token Druid.
Little tokens, for sure. Happy little trees.
My saplings are bigger than yours.
A little bit. Omega here now deciding how he wants to develop onto this board. Not really too many powerful plays going forwards. Has the ability to, you know, if he wants to be super aggressive for like Blood Mage Swipe, but likely not to be so aggressive on the board. Wants to try and save Power of the Wilds to go couple with Violet Teachers. Innovate's pretty tempting, though. This swipe isn't the most powerful tool in the world against a non-token druid.
Yeah, I like it. Then it sort of demands Pavel, you know, asks him whether he's got a swipe or not. If he has, that reduces Pavel's next turn down quite significantly if he goes for the swipe himself, unless, you know, Innovates come out as well and really put the start of the turn is just going to be the...
Okay, gonna make a big board here. Try and land the Power of the Wild. Bait out some AoE removal before he commits the second Power of the Wild with the Teacher with a super big board.
Just saying, well, you power the Wild, I can power the Wild too. This is very back and forth. Innovate coming out for Pavel could be quite impactful when combined with those two Arcane Giants.
Yeah, 2 Arcane Giants, or even the Malagos Moonfire.
Oh, okay.
He's saying
you can also do that.
If you do not have your 1 copy of Mulch, you lose the game. And Omega Zero has that 1 copy of Mulch, so we're going to keep playing. And this swings the initiative over to Omega Zero. He's actually able to get a bit of a tempo lead out of this, especially being able to couple it with the Violet Teacher. And he wants to try and get a spell off Raven Idol here. He wants to get Mulch. If he's able to get Mulch off the Raven Idol here, he can use the card he got off Raven Idol to remove the Malagos, and then Pavel will still think he does not have a Mulch in his hand, because that's the read Pavel is kind of making on Omega Zero when deploying the YOLO Malagos. So if Omega Zero can continue to conceal that Mulch, Pavel will not assume that he has Mulch in later turns.
Is that the technical term? That style of Malagos?
Yeah, that's
the YOLO Malagos.
That is the YOLO Malagos.
YOLOgos.
I mean, the YOLOgos, sure. You have, it's in your favor that there is not Mulch in the opponent's hand, so you have like 60-40 to win the match on the spot right there with the YOLOgos. But it is a big risk, because when it does get punished, you could turn a favorable board state into an unfavorable board state.
Yeah, and he did, actually, Pavel did have the backup of just slamming 2 Arcane Giants onto the board as well. You know, even, we did see the Mulch come out, of course. Not going to be as likely now, because Omega Zero drawing into the Violet Teacher was huge. Allowed him to clear up the Malagos and develop a board, so maybe we won't see both. Oh, Pavel completely disagrees. Fantastic.
He's seen 1 Power of the Wild already. He says, you don't got the 2nd Power of the Wild. I am going to put out this pressure with these Arcane Giants and race you down.
Yeah, he's actually just got a lot of damage available to him with Swipe, Double Foul, Rage as well. And
yeah.
I think Pavel has Azure Drakes left, right?
Sure.
So this Netherspite Historian.
It could get some value if the game continues.
Discover a 9-drop dragon.
Sometimes Malagos.
YOLOgos times 2.
He's got the YOLOgos and the Malagos and the Discoverlos. It's all over the place.
I'm gonna have to work on keeping track of these dragons. Omega Zero has plenty of options himself, and you know, this game is getting very, very intricate, and it's really off the back of both players nourishing for cards pretty much one after the other, which means they've had so many options available to him. Omega Zero saying, hey, I'm gonna go very, very wide. This is my 2nd Power of the Wild. I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna present so much damage that even those 2 Arcane Giants don't look like huge threats at the moment.
Yeah, I really like this by Omega Zero, and one of the things that these Arcane Giants say and indicate is, you know, I'm not going to Yogg next turn because I don't want to Yogg my own Arcane Giants away. So if you're able to just put a huge board wide, then even if Pavel can Yogg, he has to discard his Arcane Giants in the crossfire of the Yogg.
Wow. Did draw into the 2nd swipe, not needed because Pavel already had the 1st in hand. A huge swipe there, clearing up a good chunk of the board. Violet Teacher and a couple of the trees still alive due to the extra health, but one piece of me died inside when that Azure Drake was played. No Netherspite this turn, Fiber.
Potentially one a little bit later on. Pavel currently outside of the range of Omega Zero's damage. Omega Zero sitting at, you know, swipe plus Druid of the Claw being 8 damage out of hand, 18 damage for Omega Zero. If he picks up a Living Roots, it would be lethal if Pavel doesn't trade. Pavel makes the trade, identifies that there's a lot of risk associated with leaving the Teacher up and with ignoring that board.
Double swipe Arcane Giant is an option here.
Not a bad one. He can even draw.
Oh,
a
he can
card
actually
with the
Wild Growth. Yeah, he can Wild Growth as well. This Arcane Giant, man, gets me every time. Yeah, this is a pretty big turn, and having the follow-up of Druid of the Claw or Ragnaros, depending on what the board state looks like Omega Zero is going to be in a stronger position coming out of this one.
Yeah, or even Yogg if he feels like he needs it. all of your opponent's minions play an 8/8. Looks like.
Arcane Giant, you mean?
Yeah, he actually had the option there even to maybe only use one swipe on the Ezra Drake, trade in a 3/1, and play a Druid of the Claw alongside.
I think I like the full clear.
Okay.
Just means that your opponent's always going to be a step behind because there's no real easy way to kill this giant and play a threatening minion as well.
Yeah, no mulch in Pavel's deck. Already seen the Raven Idol card. So very unlikely that this giant can really get answered unless Pavel wants to kind of just yog flip it.
Can just trade, Omega Zero can just trade straight into this Arakoa, get rid of it, leave his giant still pretty healthy on board, and follow up with just Ragnaros, knee to the face. This could be the beginning of the end of Pavel's run through the World Championships here, as this is going to be a hell of a lot of damage.
A lot of damage, but Pavel has a lot of healing in hand, and he has the ability to clear this, potentially, with the Yogg-Saron. So this might actually be the overextension that allows Pavel to kind of come back in the value game here. As
he's going to do it. He's decided this is all he's got. He's going to play the Moonfire, play the Yogg, and here we go. Is it going to be enough?
That'll help.
Well, there's
you
a
win the
few more
value
Yoggs.
game. Yeah. He just needs to survive the next few turns, and then he's very likely to be able to come back in this game.
Ancestral Knowledge. Oh, well, backup Yogs.
Innervate for the backup Yogg to get rid of the Overload.
Splash is important. Ooh. Holy Nova is what's needed. That is Holy. It's not a Nova. Removes the armor. Heals him back up.
Inconvenient time to remove the armor.
Oh, there we go. Doesn't matter what happens now at all for Pavel, unless he kills himself, because he cleared the board. Yogg is left alive. There's a second Yogg, and more importantly, there are 2 Fell Rages for him to stabilize in terms of health.
And Omega Zero's running out of threats. He's just
What's the... Yogg's only weak to one thing, Fiber.
another Yogg. No,
You got it.
Omega Zero fishing here for potentially lethal, thinking about it at least. He's so close, yet so
What can he
far.
draw, though? With one draw? I don't think there's anything, right? So use both swipes for a start.
Raven Idol stuff occasionally, but he's just going to go for the Yogg. He realizes nothing off the top allows him to close out this game.
Pavel had a great one. Can Omega Zero have an even better one? Off to a reasonable start so far. Oh, that is huge. Oh,
And that's going to be the end of it, but
the 5 damage, very important. Putting his
Not
opponent
enough.
within lethal range next turn, though, as far as he can see with his Druid of the Claw hero power.
he has to expect that there's Pharaoh Rages in the hand of Pavel, and he knows he can't win the Ryu game because Pavel has ganged up Yoggs and has 3 additional Yogg-Sarons in his deck.
This looks very strange. Innovate out through the overload. Does that
He's
even work?
He's just trying to
It
innovate to test with a counter spell here. Most likely going to be a swipe Pharaoh Rage turn.
Is going to give him another 3-drop minion, though, as that secret was an effigy.
This isn't played.
It's 15 damage for Pavel. 1
Both
damage.
players so close.
1 damage off lethal. Yeah, I think he can win a very consistent amount of the time by just Pharaoh Raging for armor again, and sending the Yogg to the face, or even developing the minion. There's no way that Omega Zero is going to be able to kill him from this position, as Omega Zero wasn't able to kill him last turn from a very similar position. So
Yeah, even has Nouriship, he still feels like he has enough cards to cycle into to really power out. Had still got at least 1 more Yogg in the deck. 9 cards left for Omega Zero. So both players edging towards the bottom of the decks. 10 left for Pavel, being only 1 card behind. Azure Drake is potentially going to help out Omega Zero, though. Try and get some form of answer. Can Azure Drake and Wrath to kill off Yogg. I feel pretty okay with that so far. And this 2/2 is actually pretty decent. Addled Grizzly. When you summon a minion. 1/1.
yeah, it even works on the Living Roots. He can create 2 2/2s for 1 mana. Pretty sweet combo.
Truly the heart of a Token Druid deck. This was planned all along, Fiverr.
The 2/2 do not die to the 1/3 conveniently. Pavel has utilized both swipes. This board looking pretty difficult to remove. Pavel might need to rely on another Yogg-Saron.
It's a dangerous game, Firebat. You've relied on one, it's done great work. You're a man of numbers. What are the odds on the other one not doing the good work you needed to do?
It's tough. It's definitely a risk. It's a risk you need to take, though.
Which Yogg do you play, though?
This Yogg is created by Gang Up, so it's like...
play Feral Rage, that's for sure, as it is lit up in green.
So he's got no preparation. But this is like...
God, how much damage is this?
That's lethal if he's still alive, unless he heals Omega Zero.
There's the prep, there's the Savage Roar. Play the Feral Rage, Pavel. Well, Yogg did some crazy things, but most importantly, cleared the board, survived, and generated so much additional damage here with the Feral Rage, the upgrade, and that is enough for Pavel to win this game and continue his comeback versus Omega Zero. What a Druid Mirror.
Yeah, usually Druid Mirror is not too interesting. Usually someone gets off to a head start, but those Yoggs, that action, that had to be a very nerve-wracking series for both players.
Yeah, what you'd see there, Pavel just lean back in his chair and be like, okay, that's one more, 2 more to go. Going forward, is this going to be Pavel's mage? The deck he has struggled with so far against Omega Zero's Druid, of course. And wow, indeed, hell of an opening for Omega Zero here.
Yeah, that's what you want to see. You want your Violet Teacher, you want your spot removal, and you want your mana acceleration. So honestly, he could potentially just pass away one of those wild growths, but everything else is pretty spot on what you want. Yeah.
All keepers. Pavel, though, not got a bad opening himself, especially with that babbling book coming down. Spellbender. I swear we've seen the most Spellbenders ever this week. Feels like every random secret that pops up is a Spellbender.
It's an annoying one too. It's the trap that no one really thinks it is. It's just like Vaporize. No one really believes it's a real card.
I've vaporized an uprooted Ancient of War before in a tournament game. It was the best. Good times.
All right, Wild Growth from Omega Zero, undoubtedly coming out on this turn too. Allows him to potentially go Violet Teacher, coin Living Roots the following turn, clean up the Sorcerer's Apprentice. He has to leave it be for the time being, but it's such a convenient way to remove it in the future. Hit so many tokens.
All in.
All in.
Do everything. Second Apprentice. Cast it all. Go face. Start stacking up that Mana Worm damage.
This is
end the game. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Pavel disagrees.
Much better line of play here from Pavel. Able to
Pay attention, class.
get out that secret to kind of help play around this Living Roots play here. It's not actually going to remove power from his board, but it's actually going to add power to Pavel's board.
And even help clear up the tokens here is, you know, the 1-1 not going to do too much else. It's already been a champ, absorbed the 2 damage, guarded the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and with the addition of Apprentice into Frostbolt, Arcane Missile, Ping, he can do whatever the hell he wants this turn, and finally with this mage, Pavel seems like he's getting somewhere.
Yeah, this is the opening he's been searching for.
Dreaming of.
Yeah, the previous 3 games he's just been closing his eyes, envisioning this opening, and this is why, because this opening is killer.
So much pressure, and Omega Zero had the early start, like you said, had a pretty decent opening hand, but the rest of his hand, all late game. Does he draw, or does he try and ramp into something?
You go ramp, and then you play the Wild Growth, then you hit the Innervate, and you play the Yogg.
Okay. Battle plans. Oh, well, there's the Innervate, but not combined with the ramp, of course, as you cannot draw and ramp unless Fandral's on the board. A scary moment indeed, but Pavel might just have done too much already. It's going to be very difficult. See, Pavel only holding on to a Flame Strike at the moment. Not going to be a great card to actually end the game, but 1 burn card could change everything. There is what? 10, 11 damage, 12 with a ping. Extremely close, and Pavel can just play this Sorcerer. If not, he's not in range of a Azure Drake into swipe unless there is what, like 2 Innovates? Exactly Azure Drake, Innovate, Swipe available.
Yeah, Omega Zero does have a Blood Mage Thalnos in his deck, hoping to try and couple that with a swipe, but unable to do so, and that's going to leave him in the dust. It looks like Pavel's going to be evening up the series.
Yeah, this open is just too much, and Babbling Book MVP for me. That Spellbender was too much, and guys, you may have blinked and you may have missed it, but Pavel has evened this series up. We are going to Game 7, the decider for the decider.
Yeah, honestly, really impressive play by Pavel. Able to just really punish this Druid by Omega Zero and bring the series back. I think that Pavel has the momentum. He's got the wind in his sails, so to speak. And he's got actually a slightly favored matchup, I'd say, in the form of Malygos Rogue versus Druid. So everything's adding up. I'm excited to see the potential of this reverse sweep, and I think he's got it in him.
We're about to find out. Oh, wow. No messing around.
Yeah, already played a card.
Raven Idol, go. Yeah, okay. So it looks like he has played the Raven Idol. There we are. We are going to catch up. Oh, Pavel does have a pretty good opening himself. Swashbuckler. He has SI7 Agent combined with Backstab later on and a Tomb Pillager on 4. Everything he wants to pressure Omega Zero out of this final game. Even Barnes is another option.
Wrath's not a bad card in the Rogue arsenal. Double Innervate, though. Omega Zero could have some very powerful turns up ahead, and there's no sap from the side of Pavel.
Yeah, we'll see if Omega Zero is going to be the aggressor here due to those innovates. Whether Pavel is going to be able to start to pile on the pressure, the coin, the backstab, now the Abyss, now the Wrath. Pavel's got all of the tempo opportunities going forward here, but can he keep it?
We're going to see him explode ahead in tempo here with the backstab SI, able to chop down the Azure Drake. Follow that up with a Tomb Pillager into Gadgets and Auctioneer with 2 coins.
Do you want, is there a better hand here, Firebat, for Pavel? I know you love Rogue, you've been playing a lot of Rogue. What else does he want? Because other than maybe a sap, it looks pretty good to me.
If he had Azure Drake and then another backstab, it could get even better. Because, you know, right now the turn 5 is kind of awkward. He has to settle for, you know, like Barnes.
Nah, what a shame.
Yeah.
Tomb Pillager, Barnes, Gadgets and Coin.
Yeah.
It's a hard life.
It
it's
could
a hard
be better.
life.
You asked me how it could be better, and I'm just... There's always slight improvements to the hand.
It's still looking pretty good, though.
And Omega Zero just playing some catch-up on the board, setting up to maybe be able to innervate out something bigger, innervate out Fandral combos later. Doesn't want to rush out a Fandral now.
Yeah, very straightforward turn for Pavel, I imagine. No really deliberation. What do you think about... Okay, here's a question. When do you attack with the dagger in Rogue?
Well, in Pavel's case, since there are no deadly poisons, he can attack very freely with it whenever he feels, you know, most comfortable, honestly. There's no Harrison Jones from the side of Omega Zero. He's not redaggering anytime soon because of the amount of minions he has in his hands. So, just holding it around just in case when you need it, so you never really need to invest 2 mana into it again. Seems quite reasonable to me.
Cool. It was a question. I think the Rogue daggering is something a lot of people don't understand, to be honest. Something that isn't completely obvious at first glance, but what is obvious is that Pavel is going to continue on with this minion pressure. And hey, there's a Gadgetzan. Why not?
Yeah, he can utilize it this turn if he wants to, or he can be a little bit more patient with it.
This, oh no, is he going to go for Swashbuckler into Sinister Strike? Yeah, okay. I thought it was just coin at this face.
Yeah.
Go. Like, really trying to assert dominance. He is starting to stack together quite a lot of damage here, to be fair. This Tomb Pillager is going to live to be able to attack. This is putting on a lot of pressure. Cenarius can even go the long game.
Yeah, he can go every direction with this game. Probably won't need to go the long game just because he's got so much damage in the build. He still has another Sinister Strike that he can couple with that Malygos along with, you know, 1 of 2 Shivs or some Eviscerates and really produce a lot of damage.
Swipe is going to do a lot of work for Omega Hero. He should change his name to Omega Hero because I'm just going to keep calling it Omega Zero. Here, clearing off the big threats, just leaving Barnes as a 3-3, not the end of the world. Going to chip some damage. Now just, yeah, another threat from Pavel. Getting the Emperor down on with this kind of hand. 1 mana of this, 1 mana Wrath. Still has the coin and plenty of stuff to mess around with going forward. This is looking like a stomp here, and Omega Zero has got to scramble to try and, you know, equalize this board and really just come out on top here. This is going to be very, very tough.
Yeah, I can't really picture too many lines of plays that can get this job done. He does have Fandral that can couple with the Wrath, which is a very powerful effect. And then he can innervate out the swipe after that, get a full board clear, draw a card, develop Fandral. Other than that, there's not too much action I can see here.
I think he just has to, right? You know, you need to put at least something on the board. You can't continue to give Rogue almost 3 turns to go threat after threat, because as the Druid, you will not be able to keep up.
Yeah, what Druid really needs to do in this matchup and how they can find success is if they're able to kill everything from the Rogue's position and then start stabilizing Arcane Giants. Pavel does not have removal in his deck for Arcane Giants, so his only option is to sap the 8/8 back to Omega Zero's hand. Well, it's a 0 mana 8/8 at later stages of the game, so if he's able to do that, he can find himself in a very strong position.
Yeah, did choose to cycle, and now he's just going to develop the Thanos along with that Innovate to be able to clear the board. Is it going to be enough? When there's such a strong turn coming out from Pavel, it's more than likely going to be Gadget Zen. And then sheer craziness, he'll be able to draw his deck. Backstab is only going to help this scenario.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty good. He's got a prep remaining in the deck, and he has a lot of
preps, right?
At 2 preps remaining in the deck, so he doesn't really need to save too much for Malagos. Like, he doesn't need to save the coin for Malagos, even though the Emperor proc has been used, because he is still able to generate enough damage with the Malagos and the preparations later on.
Yeah, and he did end up going for the Scenarios turn, making his Gadget Zen turn even potentially more powerful next time, and also just presenting another huge threat and potential lethal to Omega Zero that he has to answer. And the answer he's chosen is going to be Yogg, and the Assassinate going onto Scenarios himself is quite a big deal, removing the most damage off the board. Feral Spirit definitely going to help. Pull him off on Yogg. Nope.
Not again.
Not again.
A lot of minion generation here for him. Gets a couple buffs down.
That is a mean-looking sheep.
Thistle T could be huge. That's 3 Ragnaroses.
3 Ragnaros.
You know what
Thistle
card
T
is good against Rogue?
Ragnaros.
Ragnaros.
I was going to say a 4/1 Divine Shielded sheep.
That's true as well, I guess.
But sure, Ragnaros. Is there going to be enough time? There's a spell-powered Fan of Knives available, though, so the board can be cleared relatively easily, and Pavel can still push for damage.
Is that lethal, actually, in the midst of this? Not quite. With a preparation, could be lethal this turn, but it doesn't have it.
Yeah, he's 2 off, right, I think?
Yeah, 2 off. So he has to just settle for clearing the board and being 2 off
Have
lethal.
to settle for just clearing the board and being 2 off lethal, yeah.
Yeah, that
Those hard times.
look like there's going to be enough time for these Ragnaroses to really get deployed.
Second of this. That... Nope, doesn't change anything.
What's
No prep.
really costing Omega Zero in this matchup is there's no Feral Rages in this Druid deck. He has no healing. So he has no way to recover his health aside from Raven Idol cards. He's just at the mercy of Pavel's damage, and Pavel is sitting there with loads of damage remaining in his deck.
Yeah, it's not as if he needs to, you know, if the board is cleared, he's in trouble here. He has Sinister Strike, Abyss, comboed with SI7 Agent. There's just not a lot Omega Zero can do.
There's nothing Omega Zero can do at this point.
An absolutely fantastic start from Pavel. Omega Zero just not got enough. And not, as you said, not enough defense. The Feral Rages are really missing out here. Potentially going up to additional 16 health could allow him to stabilize and stay in this game. Does a great job of clearing the board and putting some threats on himself, but we can see that is not going to be enough, and a reverse sweep for Pavel. He's going to be the 8th player joining the rest of the BlizzCon next week to play that World Championship title. What a series.
Yeah, that was really something else. It was really well fought by both players. Omega Zero's strategy working out extremely well in the beginning, kind of punishing Pavel for having a little bit of greedier decks, but Pavel able to fight through against it and secure his spot at BlizzCon.
Yeah.